On November 25th, 1973, Victor Charles was in the television program Mannix in the episode of Search in the Dark. And 3 days later, on November 28, 1973, he was performing in his one-man show, This Would I Keep, in Zanesville, Ohio. Then Victor Charles performed in the television program The Odd Couple, titled The Exorcists, playing in the role of Dr. Clove. It was released on December 7, 1973, and the executive producer was Gary Marshall. And on December 8, 1973, he was performing in the television program of Hawaii Five-0. When being interviewed in this television program and asked about his early years when he played in the role of Sir John Falstaff in Henry IV, Part 1 at the Oak Globe Theatre, he commented, I suppose it was the foolishness of my youth at that time and told me I had to do it. It takes years of study and reading and watching and listening to do justice to Sir John Falstaff. Only a bumpkin would have tried to do it with my lack of experience at that time in my career. Then he was asked about his role in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and when working intimately with Bette Davis and Joan Crawford, saying, playing opposite these two remarkable stars, I felt like an altar boy invited to the council in an adversary capacity. Bette Davis told me on a set on another movie we were doing together, and I was one of the few actors who have ever upstaged her. When questioned about his one-man shows he performed throughout America, he said, I go out to the campuses every year with a program of poetry readings, although I like to include something by James Boswell, an 18th century Scotsman, and Dr. Samuel Johnson. My program consists mainly of readings from 19th and 20th century American poets, Emily Dickinson, Dorothy Parker, and James Thurber. One of the most enjoyable things about this is that I invariably get to have some sessions with the students themselves. They are full of questions about everything, the theater, the English language, life, everything. Finally, being asked about his international trips to perform in foreign motion pictures, he simply said, it's a good living and a good life. On December 19, 1973, Victor Charles was in the 90-minute television series of the Snoop Sisters, and it was the second episode of Corpse and Robbers, starring Helen Hayes and Mildred Natwick. And its first episode was The Female Instinct, aired on December 18, 1972. Corpse and Robbers aired on December 19, 1973. Victor Charles played the role of Nathan, and this was his only performance in the Snoop Sister programs. This was one of the most productive years for Victor Charles's acting career by proving he was more than just a villain or buffoon in television programs and motion pictures. What he achieved most in 1973 was playing Sir John Falstaff in William Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1, at the Mark Taper Forum Auditorium. Hollywood finally took notice that the 6'3" and 350 pounds actor was one of the greatest actors to ever play Sir John Falstaff on a theater stage. He won respect all alone by speaking the words of William Shakespeare and the poetry of W.B. Yeats and Dylan Thomas. It took him 13 years from 1960 to 1973 to be recognized that he was his own man. His prose and poetry and honesty in sharing how people of enormous weight still need love, self-esteem, and confidence to sit with others without feeling lesser because of it. When he was young, his peers laughed at his size, but as he grew, Victor Charles turned the table in his favor with amusement to make others laugh. He was weakened as a child, but when he was older, his strength came from seeing people laughing. When 1974 rolled around, my wife Christy and I returned to San Diego, California. We had a 2-bedroom apartment on Utah Street in North Park. We were in walking distance to Balboa Park, the San Diego Zoo, and the Oak Grove Theater. This was the year I began inching my way into performing arts. I began acting in street theater at Balboa Park in front of visitors from other states and foreign countries. There was music in the air with musicians and jugglers performing everywhere throughout the park. When I wasn't acting in a street theater skit, I would put on white theater paint on my face and attempted to perform like the legendary mime Marcel Marceau in Balboa Park. I soon stumbled over the Indian magic in the Zorro Gardens at Balboa Park, and I was amazed by what I heard and saw of this marvelous street actors company. When I sat in amazement watching the hilarious actors of Indian magic performing in Zorro Gardens, I was completely overtaken with joy. I soon introduced myself to the members of Indian Magic, and I was invited to Sam Woodhouse's apartment in the Golden Hills of downtown San Diego to talk about theater and about our lives. Soon thereafter, Indian Magic rented an old factory building in the slum district of downtown San Diego, and they produced wonderful parties on the upper floors with live band music and performing screaming, hilarious comedy skits. Soon, in my excitement, I started exercising my amateur skills as a playwright and offered a few of my new sketch scripts to them. Unknowingly, at that point in time, I didn't know that I would soon be leaving San Diego in 1975 to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to start working at my new job. That was a painful day when leaving the creative opportunities of working with Indian Magic. On January 3rd, 1974, Victor Charles was performing in his one-man show, Just We Three, at Ventura College in Van Nuys, California. We might have found it difficult to keep booking his one-man show to the same colleges and lady clubs. He may have become weary of flying from state to state and performing his same old material, bogging him down and making him bored. Whatever the reason was, his newspaper clippings were having a serious drought. In May of 1974, Victor Charles was in the motion picture The Mad Butcher, and he played the role of Otto Lehmann. It was filmed in Italy, and it was finally released in the United States. The description of the film goes like this. After being released from a mental hospital, Otto returns to his old job as a butcher. He tries to adjust to his new life, but after a bitter argument with his wife, he accidentally kills her. Fearing he will be sent back to the hospital, he grinds her body and sells it as sausages. As friends and relatives start asking questions about her disappearance, they too start ending up in the butcher's display case. Here, Victor Charles goes again, performing in another motion picture that only tainted his image all the more by killing women and his wife. Between reciting prose and poetry in his one-man shows and murdering others on the silver screen, it was a constant contradiction that struggled within him to find out who the real Victor Charles Buono truly was.